just keep reminding yourself why you're doing this. If your why is still making sense, don't give up.
Hey, what's up, friends? Grant Baldwin here. Welcome back to the Speaker Lab podcast. Super excited for today's conversation. We're going to be chatting with Marcy Grossman, who went through our program like a year and a half ago or so, give or take, 2
6
years ago.
months.
Oh, 6 months ago. Oh, sheesh. This is
grad.
super recent. And she has been just absolutely killing it. And so we're going to be talking about like, all right, what are you doing here? What's the secret? And so in addition, she's still in the corporate world, but trying to like actively figure out like, all right, how do I get more and more into the speaking world? So we know a lot of you may be in a similar spot. So we'll be talking about that. So Marcy, thanks for joining us today.
Grant, this is a dream come true.
Well, we got to set some higher dreams for you then.
No, seriously, 1 year ago today almost, I was floundering and I was listening longingly to your voice on the other end of a podcast. And I was like, one day I'd like to be in a room with that guy. One day I want to be a success story as opposed to the absolute loser I feel like I am right now. So
what were you doing a year ago?
A year ago, I was struggling with bringing my speaking business to life. And I had hit rock bottom, and I was at that point where I was going to give up. And then someone referred me to your podcast, and I started listening and loving it and seeing that there might be potential for me and loving all the stories that you were bringing to life through your podcast. And I took the leap one day. I was like, I am going to go to one of those free webinars and see what it's all about. And that was last September.
Wow.
Yeah, so not even a year ago. And I went and I was like, sign me up. And it's been uphill ever since.
Very cool. So from a career standpoint, what were you doing a year ago and even prior to that?
Yes. So my career is in 3 chapters, I would say. My first chapter is I am a criminal psychologist by training. I spent the first 10 years of my career working in the big house. That was my dream. I wanted to save the world one offender at a time. And so I spent 10 years in federal corrections. Wow. Then I had the unique opportunity to transition into diplomacy because that is such a natural move. Criminal psychologist.
I was trying to figure out how you went from point A to point B.
Canadian ambassador. That's such a natural move. And I can tell that story a little later if you want. But once I got to the area of diplomacy, I was like, I am not going back to jail. Like, this is good stuff here. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to make this work.
And you were an ambassador to where?
I was most recently the ambassador to the United Arab Emirates. That's where I finished my ambassadorial career. But I started in the Department of what was then called our Department of Foreign Affairs, as an officer level position, and converted that, what was at the time a temporary assignment, into a 22-year diplomacy career.
Wow.
That's crazy. That was chapter 2. And after 32 years of public life, I decided that I did not want to do that anymore, that I had a calling that was even greater than saving the world one offender at a time and representing my country on the world stage. I felt there was a greater calling for me. And when I looked back during this period of reflection, as one does at a certain age in life, reflecting back on what you've done and where you've been and the whispers that have been lingering inside of you for many, many years, that whisper brought me to the stage. And I thought to myself, I want to be a professional speaker.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So how long did you feel like that? Because I think there's a lot of people who have felt like that at some point in their career. Maybe they had spoken for something on behalf of their job or their company or their profession or career. And it just kind of like lit a little bit of a fire enough to go like, that's kind of interesting. I wonder what doing more of that might look like. So even in your corrections role or with the ambassador role, were you doing a lot of presenting and speaking?
Yes, actually, I had a huge public speaking fear when I worked in corrections because I was basically like summer intern, and my boss sent me out to the jail to train correctional officers and offenders on how to deliver psychological based programs. Wow. It was a bit of a challenge. I had no preparation, and I was petrified. I was petrified of my audience. I was petrified of the content. I was petrified of everything. And I had this huge public speaking fear after that for probably 10 or 15 years. As I got into diplomacy, though, that was my job. was speaking to people, was talking to
Hmm.
Canadian businesses, trying to help them get their products and services into the market, speaking to elected officials, speaking on behalf of Canada at various kinds of different events. And it was very scripted. But then I was like, hey, I could actually do this. I'm not so afraid anymore. Like, I used to be so afraid of public speaking that on my way to gigs, like in the correctional era, I used to consider having an accident in my car, just a small one, so that I could go to the hospital and not have to go to the
Oh my
gig.
gosh.
Or maybe I would accidentally break my arm and I would not have to go to the gig. Like, that's how afraid I was.
Sheesh.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
That's crazy. So it sounds like part of what changed was time, and then also just doing enough reps.
Confidence and the reps. Yes. It definitely
Is that
was the
was
reps.
that it was
Yes.
just doing the reps? Just do you think it was the reps? Do you think it was like the audience? Meaning, like when you're speaking to corrections officers
Right.
who may or may not care about what
Right.
you have to say, and they're
Did not.
maybe a captive audience, no
Right.
pun intended,
Right.
but versus talking to people who are trying to grow their businesses or expand their
Hmm.
businesses. There's a difference between an audience that wants to be there and an audience that has
Hmm.
to be there. How
Yeah.
much of that was a factor, if at all, for you?
Well, definitely, I have a very tough crowd. And as you said, the correctional officers were less receptive than the actual offenders were, especially since I was young, female. I had this, master's degree in psychology, and they weren't
Hmm.
getting me. So part of it was the audience for sure, and the vibe in the room, which was not very
Yeah,
receptive. But I think mostly it came with confidence and doing the reps. And it came to the
yeah.
point where I wasn't afraid. And I actually got this great excitement before I would start to speak. And then I would just start losing myself
Hmm.
in the speech. And I started to get acknowledged for my speaking. People thought that I was a good speaker, that I had interesting messages. And over time, because I had to do these things so many times, especially when you're in a senior role, people are often preparing speeches for you. And many senior people just read off the script. But I didn't want to do
Hmm.
that. I wanted to toy with it. I wanted to play with it. I knew that there was something important about making a connection at the beginning, saying something funny, using my sense of humor. So I knew that there was an art to speaking. It wasn't just the words, because the words were always the same. It's just
Yeah.
you wanted to say it in a way that people would hear you. But I would say, so I did start to get a buzz off that. Like at the end, I
Hmm.
was just like riffing. Like I would write a speech in the car on the way there on a post-it note, and then I just had the crowd in my hand, and I was like, "This is it. Like this is my
Yeah.
glory."
Yeah.
But when I left the public service, I could have done a lot of things, and I did start doing a lot of things. I went through this period of like transformation. I mean, in the midlife lingo, it's basically like you're going through the chrysalis, right? So I've been a caterpillar. What do caterpillars do? They collect, they eat, they stock up, they
Yeah.
they build up until they get a calling that says, "Build yourself a chrysalis." And
Hmm.
that was for me. Leaving the public service was a calling. Like it's time to go now. I didn't know what I was going to do, and I got into that chrysalis, and the caterpillar basically dissolves down to nothing
Yeah.
before emerging as the butterfly. And while I was in that chrysalis, I did a really deep dive into what is it I was good at, and what I really love to do, and and what am I well positioned to do. But as if I go back to those whispers, when I looked back on my life, I thought to myself, what are the whispers that I've been ignoring my whole life? And it really comes back to that getting on the stage. So when I thought about it, like when I was 5 years old, I wrote a song and sent it to Sesame Street because I wanted to
Hmm.
be on the show. When I
Yeah.
was 12 years old, I was in a fine arts class and I sang Broadway and I wanted to be on Broadway. I
Yeah.
wanted to be in the ice follies. I had made an idea for my parents to hold like a flaming rail, and my sister and I would do the limbo in an ice show. I like
Yeah.
14, 16, I was a backup singer in a Rolling Stones cover band. Like the list goes on and on and on. And it's like, I wanted to get back on the stage. And now, with the experience that I have and the wisdom that I've had through this, incredible career, I had stories on my heart that I wanted to share, and
Yeah.
that's when it all came together for me.
How do you reconcile though the tension then of I feel like this has been on my radar since very early childhood of
Right.
I want to do this.
Right.
But then once I started to dip my toe into it,
Right.
I'm thinking about faking accidents because I'm so terrified of it, you know?
No, no, I wasn't
So how do
faking
you,
accidents in that iteration. The faking accidents was on the way to jail.
yeah, yeah,
By the time that I graduated, those things were whispers, as I said.
yeah.
I thought I wanted to be a singer or a dancer or an actress or
Hmm.
that's what I thought. But
Yeah,
actually, what I wanted, what I still want, is to be on the stage and inspire people from the
yeah,
stage. And, I'm not a great singer and I can't dance.
yeah,
And, I was actually an okay singer at one point, but it's the messages that became the medium,
yeah.
not the medium, the media.
How did you determine, like, because this is a common question for among speakers,
Mm,
is when is it like genuine fear for speaking, or when is it just nerves and it's just kind of adrenaline and it's excitement
right,
for the moment? So one of the
right.
time one of the things we've talked about is it's easy to confuse the two.
Yeah,
There are certain situations where you feel that same
right,
type of adrenaline and it comes
right,
across in the same
right,
way as
right.
they're announcing me, I'm getting ready to go on stage and I feel that.
Yeah,
And it's not like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster,
right.
or how do I get out of this?
Yeah,
It's just like, holy crap, this is awesome. I can't believe I get to do this. And it's
right.
just the this heightened sense of adrenaline within the body of just like, hey,
Yes.
lock in. This is
Yeah, yeah.
important. So how do you kind of separate those two?
So there's like a dark valley of despair that every speaker finds themselves in on occasion. And that's where I was last August. I was in the dark
Yeah.
valley of despair thinking, I'm not doing this. I can't. It's too hard. And that's the anxiety. That's like
Mm-hmm.
legit anxiety. That's the negative self talk that's telling you, you have no stories. Who do you think you are? Like, you're not so
Mm-hmm.
great. Who's going to listen to your message? So
Yeah.
there's that happens, and you have to get your way through that, which is very different than, and this for me, that usually happens in my preparation phase. If I'm writing a new speech, this speech sucks. No one's going to want to listen to it. Then I
Yeah.
get to the end, and it's like, this speech is actually great. Like, there are
Yeah.
some good lines in here. I can't wait to get it, to release it to the
Yeah.
universe. And so you have to, there's an arc that happens there, especially with a new speech. But by that time I get to the stage, I feel nerves, but they're good nerves.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. For
and if
sure.
you don't feel them as good nerves, all you have to do is rethink them. It's the same
Yeah.
energy, nervousness, excitement. You just call it something different.
Yeah.
And I always make sure at the beginning of a speech that I have an opportunity to get the energy out, because it's exploding out of me, and I
Yeah.
need a minute to
Yeah.
adapt. So I'll start with a joke so that people will laugh, and then I have a minute to compose myself. But
Yeah.
no, I if you're ready, then it should be good anxiety getting you on the stage. Not bad.
So throughout your career, you are giving a lot of presentations and you're
Yes.
enjoying it. You're starting to get more feedback. You're starting to
Yes.
get more confidence. And so you could just continue to do that on behalf of your job, your career, whatever it
Right.
may be. And I'm
Right.
giving presentations at some
Right.
point that shifted and gone like, but what if instead instead of me giving the speech as Marcy the ambassador, I
Right.
gave it as Marcy.
Right.
And so when did that start to enter the equation for you?
So, during the metamorphosis, while I was in the chrysalis, when I was about to emerge as the butterfly, I just kind of put all the pieces together, and I thought, I do have messages to talk about in terms of being an ambassador. In fact, my brand
Mm-hmm.
is Be Your Best Ambassador.
Hmm.
And my speaking business is built around drawing from those lessons of international diplomacy to help leaders lead better, or to
Hmm.
help individuals create inspired success, to be the
Yeah.
ambassadors of their success. So it really all came together with me. Everything I was very passionate about, representing my country, having been an ambassador, my psychological background, training background, my desire to speak, but there is this real, and I think for all, I'm not saying all speakers, but many of the speakers that I've met, is people have messages on their heart. And that's when you're unstoppable. If you're just doing it for the money, like, there's less stressful jobs, believe me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have messages on your heart and you're making a contribution to your audience, then you can't get away from that. You will
Yeah.
find a way.
So where do you go from there? Because again, I think there's speakers who are in that spot of going like, okay, I'm feeling that tug to do
Right.
more than this on
Right.
behalf of my job, but
Right.
I want this
Okay.
to perhaps be my job. I want this
Right.
to be my, my career.
Right.
But it's kind of going like, okay, I feel that, I sense that, but like,
Right.
where do I go from
Right.
there?
That is a good
And so,
question. I blocked that out of my mind. That was part of the dark valley of despair point. So I came out of the chrysalis as I'm going to be my best ambassador. And I created a website, and I had a sense of what the website was supposed to look like, but I didn't have a speaker reel. But as soon as I decided to do it, I found a guy, because everyone needs a guy or a gal, and he made me
yeah,
this beautiful website, and I got video and photography and a tagline, and we made up stories, and the website was looking pretty good, and I launched it in January of 2024. As soon as I launched the website, I got an agent. I got signed with the National Speakers Bureau in February.
okay,
As soon as I signed with the National Speakers Bureau in February, I got my first gig in March.
wow,
So I was rolling. I was like, yes, you have
yeah, that's
chosen the right
unusual,
thing.
but okay,
Yes, it is unusual. You have chosen the right thing. The universe has responded to what it is you wanted to do. I did the gig in March. It went pretty well, except my agent told me, and she was there, of course. It was online. She said, "You need to get off the page." I was like, "What? Off the page? What does that mean?"
yeah,
Apparently, if you're going to be a professional speaker, you have to be able to speak without the page. You're
yeah, yeah.
supposed to have those messages on your heart flowing freely out of your mouth. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to get off the page." And she said,
But meaning like, did she feel like you weren't necessarily like reading something verbatim, but it was something?
I was leaning heavily on my notes because it was a virtual
Okay,
conversation.
okay, I
So I
got
was
you.
looking out into the abyss anyhow, right?
Yeah,
There
yeah,
was no response coming out. So I
mm-hmm.
had notes, and I
Yep,
leaned heavily on them, even though I knew the content.
got it.
I leaned really heavily. So she
Yeah,
said, I'm going to, so at the end of March, she said, I'm going to, she thought I was ready. She's like, I'm going to arrange like this little session for you to introduce you to people that we know who book events, who are in the field, and all you do is showcase 15 minutes of content. I was like, yeah,
mm-hmm.
15 minutes of content. So, but I wanted to get off the page, so I created this
Yeah,
very complex post-it note system, and I start, and then I don't know what happened, but the post-it notes just all started falling, and my
mm.
I lost where I was, and it was the worst 15 minutes of my entire life.
15 going from like a normal 45, 60 minute
Yeah,
keynote trying to consolidate to 15 is
yeah.
surprisingly difficult.
It's surprisingly difficult. I did not get my messages across. I
Mm-hmm.
clearly was lost oh, maybe the entire time. It
Yeah,
was so bad that they managed to only cut 6 minutes of it for the summary reel. There was
yeah,
only like 6 minutes of things that sounded relatively intelligent,
coherent.
coherent, and but so then I just went into despair. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do it. I'm such a loser. Who did I think I was trying to do this? And that really, I messed with my head. Like I let my head get the best of me for many many months, and then I was just grasping at straws basically. And then I started listening to Speaker Lab, and I was like, I don't know. Maybe if I had more of a structure, like I didn't know what I was doing. First of all,
Yeah,
I didn't know how to be a speaker because no one had taught me other than
yeah,
to read off a page. And I didn't also know that speaking was a business,
yeah,
speaker's
yeah.
business. I didn't know how to run a business. So I was listening to a podcast, hoping and dreaming that one day I might be on the other end of the phone with you. And it worked. And I signed up in September of 2024.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, so I launched in January of 2024.
Yeah.
Now we're September. And I knew that it was going to work for me because it had so many elements that I was craving. One of them was a process. I knew there was a process. I knew I didn't have to
Yeah.
recreate the wheel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I loved the process. I loved the content. I loved the way the content was delivered. I could consume it in my own time, in my own place.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the coaching. Like when you're a new
Mm.
speaker, you really need coaching.
Yeah.
And basically, you guys dusted me off and got me back in the ring. And imagine that 6 minutes, that 15 minutes of horribleness
Yeah.
actually captured the attention of one person
Yeah.
who booked me for a full paid gig.
Mm.
And I knew I wasn't going to make it to that gig without a lot of help.
Yeah.
And so I signed up and then did the gig, and that's all she wrote.
Let me go back to, all right, so a little over a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
you do the 15-minute showcase.
Yeah.
It feels like a bit of a mess. Um, and then afterwards, you kind of hit this valley of despair there,
Mm-hmm.
where you're just kind of in your own head
Yeah.
for several months.
Yeah.
What pulled you out of that? Because it would be easy to stay in that spiral. Because
Mm-hmm.
I could see telling yourself the story
Yeah.
of, all right, years ago, I thought it'd be cool to be a speaker. I tried it in the corrections world and it ate me alive and I hated it. And then like I got a little boost of confidence and then I
Mm-hmm.
got brought back down to reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so it would be easy to tell yourself or convince yourself of the story of,
Mm-hmm.
nope, you were right all along, Marcy. Like you shouldn't be doing this. Like go back to the safe, comfortable world of
Yeah.
corporate life. And you're ridiculous to even contemplate the idea of being a
Right.
speaker. Like,
Right.
why do you think that you didn't fall further into that mind spiral?
Because I had a gig and I had to deliver and had a contract. So I had to get my stuff
Get
together,
your act together.
get my
Yeah,
act together.
yeah,
And I was like, I'll do this one. It'll take me a lot to get there, but I will do this one. I will do what it takes. And if it
yeah.
doesn't work out, I'm not doing it anymore. And then it
What
worked.
did that gig come from the bureau, or kind of what
That
after
came
the
from that
showcase? What
15
happened
minute
with the bureau?
showcase that someone was on the showcase who wrote
Yeah.
for an event magazine and wrote a spotlight piece on me. And someone saw it in a magazine and just called up my agency.
Did anything else ever come of the bureau stuff?
Yeah, the bureau. Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is the poor bureau. Like, I went into hiding, so
Yeah,
they're like, "Where's Marcy?" I was like, "Hiding." No, the
yeah.
bureau is great. The bureau
Cool.
will do as much as I want, and they co-create with me, and I just got another gig through them, and yeah, it's great.
Cool. All right. So you are starting to come out of the valley of despair. You come across the podcast, and maybe
Yeah.
that gives you like a little glimmer of hope or a little
Hmm.
boost of confidence there.
Yeah.
It seems like this isn't like some overnight of like I flip a switch and all of a sudden I feel better. And I think it's just it's a healthy, helpful reminder
Hmm.
that I say this all the time, but every speaker you look up to, you admire, you respect, like it's easy to look at the highlight reel and think like, wow, that speaker is killing it. They're doing all these huge gigs and
Hmm.
they're making top fees or
Right.
whatever the
Yeah.
story is that we're telling ourselves, and just thinking that like we will never be at that level, we'll never be that good, yada yada yada.
Hmm.
And oftentimes you find that like that's not necessarily the case. And maybe like they did one gig that you saw or you heard about,
Right.
and the reality is like they're doing a handful of other gigs, but they're a lower fee or
Yeah.
free or like
No, that's what
whatever,
I
you know.
loved about your content is that it was approachable because I've listened to other speaker business podcasts and I've been involved
Yeah,
with other speaker businesses, not to name any names, and
yeah.
the content was unreachable.
Mm,
It was 5 star. It was like showcase after showcase, and it just made me realize I'm never gonna. I'm not leaving this course looking like that. Like that's not reels. It's not for reels and reels. And
yeah,
your content on is very approachable and it's very
yeah,
digestible. It allows you to see yourself in the vision. Whereas other organizations, they show you just the shiny stuff and they never tell you about the bumps and bruises and the vernies that people took and how many reps it takes. So you got to get the reps in, how many reps it takes. It's a lot of freaking
yeah,
reps.
yeah,
Like, and there's
for
a
sure.
lot of bumps and bruises along the way, but right away, the process was reassuring because I saw the framework and I saw, oh yeah, I'm going to do that first and that second. Like I saw the path, and then I was
Yeah,
like, I'm going to get through this so quickly because I love to be organized like this. I love to have a vision, and I want to get good really quickly.
yeah, yeah,
So right away, the content really spoke to me, and the coaching I really loved. Yeah.
yeah. And you got to, like you said, you got to trust the process and follow the process. So
Trust the
you
process.
again, going back to end of last year or so,
Yeah.
sounds like you're booking a few gigs here and
Yeah.
there, starting to build some mental
Yeah.
momentum of like, okay, maybe I could do this thing. After the first gig that you did
Hmm.
after the debacle of the
Yes.
showcase, how
Yes.
did that one go?
It went great.
Did
Yeah.
it boost your confidence? Or like, okay, I was
Yeah.
just,
I mean,
what was I?
no, no,
I was
I
bullet.
was great actually. So great that it wasn't that great. First of all, I wasn't that great. I mean, to the people, the nice people who paid me lots of money, I was great,
Yeah,
but I also knew that I could be better.
yeah,
So that was like a good learning for me. But the great part about that gig is that in the audience was two women, highly respected women who run a women's podcast and a women's summit. And they're like, well, our summit's already booked right now, but we'd love to have you on the podcast. And these are
mm,
like legit, real women businesses.
yeah,
And then I was on the podcast. And then, yeah, so a lot of things started coming up. And then the agency built some momentum from that gig because I got really good feedback. And then the feedback was
yeah.
on my website. And then I had a story to talk about. And then I got to the point in the speaker lab content where I realized I need a pipeline.
Hmm.
I have to manage this thing. Speaking
Yeah,
is not a speaking business is part speaking, part business. And then I like OD'd on the I think Eric Ream
yeah,
power hour
yeah.
pipeline magic, and
Well,
that was
and something you just,
insane what started happening.
well, I think that's so, it's such an important note because you said, the speaking business is part speaking and part business.
Right.
And I would say it is 80, 90% business and actually a small percentage of actually
Hmm.
speaking, which is hard. It's difficult for people because the business part's oftentimes the hard part. It's going like,
Right.
nah, I don't enjoy that part. I don't want to do that
Right.
part. I just want to do the
Right.
speaking part. But it's like
Right.
it's the part that you have to do to get to the part that you want to do.
Right.
And it's just kind of the cost of admission and the nature of the beast
Hmm.
is, I know you want to do the art part of
Right.
it, but you got to do the business part of it to
Right.
be able to get to the art of it. In order to keep
Absolutely.
doing the art of it, you have to
Yes.
keep doing the business part, and you have to
Yes.
fall in love with the process. So
Yes.
to what you described, like a lot of speakers, they just don't have a process. My process is I sit back and I wait for the phone to ring,
Right.
and hopefully someone magically finds out
Right.
about me,
Right.
which may happen from time to time, but
Right.
it's not a consistent way
No.
and a predictable way to build a business. So going through like, okay, I have to build a pipeline, and what does that look like? Was that something that clicked for you right away, or
Yes, because I
walk us through
love
that?
process. Even though I'm not a process person. No,
Yeah,
I think less like I do like a system. Like I need a roadmap
yeah,
and I need to know where I'm going. And so, yeah, I binged on the mini course within the course on building your
mm-hmm,
pipeline. And I tried out a bunch of softwares until I decided on the one that Eric had recommended,
yeah,
which was easy because some of them are not that easy. And I'm not like, it didn't want to make this like a master's degree in computer science.
yeah,
And I just started doing the thing like an hour a
yeah,
day. What do you have to do? You got to get 5 calls in, you got to get whatever the system is, and started building the pipeline. The end of the week, don't kill me, but I got 3 gigs.
no way,
Then the pipeline was exploding. I had to shut the
yeah,
pipeline down.
yeah, yeah,
But you have to trust the process. And Eric and you guys will say this like till you're blue in the face, but I'm telling you, you have to trust the process. I
yeah,
say process. I'm Canadian. Sorry.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But so now the pipeline is there, and I don't even have to go in every single day because it's my pipeline is rich because I've had a
yeah,
very rich career.
yeah.
I don't have to
And
work
so,
that hard.
and you're at a point now where you're still speaking on the side, but it's getting busier and busier. And so what's you mentioned you went from corrections to the ambassadorship.
Yeah.
What's kind of the current full-time job that you're doing?
So I have my own business. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, so it's a speaking business. It started out as a speaking business, but it's
Yeah,
evolved actually into more of a consulting, speaking, consulting, training business. So what
got it.
happens, and I think that's the way it's supposed to work, because I just listened to one of your podcasts last week that speaking is supposed to be the top of the funnel.
Yeah,
I don't know if I made that up, but I think you said that.
No, I mean, I think one of the great things about speaking is
Mm.
it can look a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. So there are
Yes.
people who say, "I just want to speak. I'm not interested in coaching or consulting or anything
Yeah.
else, and I want to speak. I want to collect a check and kind of end of the transaction."
Hmm.
And others would say, "No, I want speaking to be a lead gen mechanism
Right.
for a coaching or consulting or some other service
Right.
based business
Right.
that I'm doing on the side there." So
Yeah.
it can work in a lot of different ways. It's just kind of figuring out
Right.
what is it that you are trying to
Right.
accomplish. And so it sounds like for you of going, okay, I started to get some clarity around that. And
Right.
so when did you leave like the ambassador gig to
Oh, I
go
left
all
in,
in on the
yeah.
speaking gig?
Well, I left the ambassador gig in 2022. And so,
Okay.
end of
So since then
2022.
you've kind of been doing your own coaching, consulting,
Yeah.
and then speaking
So,
was
yeah.
another element to
Yeah.
that.
So I started as a non resident fellow at the Atlantic Council, which is a Washington based think tank, because one of my big passions is uh, peace in the Middle East in general, but the role
Mm-hmm.
of
Mm-hmm.
women in peacekeeping, peacemaking, and peace building in the Middle East. So that gave me an opportunity to write something. So I started with that. Then I have started the speaking business. What else was I doing? Oh, consulting. Like I have an
Mm-hmm.
expertise in international business development. I've been helping Canadian companies get their products and services abroad for
Yeah.
20 years. So I get contracted for that. I'm a leadership expert. I've made it to the top of my game and I love
Yeah.
leadership. Leadership is one of my values, it's my passion. So I do training, I do
Mm-hmm.
mentoring. I just got a gig working as a trainer for a negotiations company, which is great because you get to use the lessons you've learned negotiating through prison and diplomacy
Yeah.
to help people be the ambassadors of their best success in negotiation. So there's a nice, everything really fits together. I've been asked to organize conferences and events in the Middle East around women, to be on the stage, to be behind the stage. So there's a lot going on for me right now. And I think what my next step is going to be is to repackage everything because it is a bit all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And I did actually another podcast with, I think it was with Eric on that, and that was my question. Like, how do I
Yeah.
package myself as a speaker slash consultant slash trainer slash whatever? It's not my speaking website. It doesn't complete me, and I'm
Yeah.
more than my speaking. I
How
am
have you navigated that to figure out where speaking fits in? Because like we talked about, there's some people who would say like I am just a speaker, and that's like the core thing of what I
right.
do. And others that say like, no, speaking is a percentage of what I do, but I also do consulting
Right.
and coaching. And so,
Yeah.
how have you kind of navigated and figured that out of how the pieces of the pie fit
Yeah.
together for
I'm
you?
just testing them out right now. I'm just
Yeah,
seeing because all this momentum just began, and all these opportunities started coming up. I'm hosting my own retreat, for example, coming up in November.
cool.
So, and the thematics are very similar, and there is a thread that carries everything through. It's about
Mm-hmm.
leadership, my passion, service to Canada, service to others.
Yeah,
It's about midlife. It's the stage that I'm in now. What can I offer the world through the wisdom that I have? And it's about
yeah,
inspiring people. Like, if I could do it, if I could be Canada's Jewish female ambassador to the United Arab Emirates after
yeah,
having started as a prison shrink, you could do
yeah,
anything you want. And
yeah,
here's how I did it, and I want to help you do that. So that comes out in my speaking, but it comes out in my business as well. And I do have to repackage it, but I'm testing out all the different pieces to see, what feels best and what's best for my business because the speaking, quite honestly, pays a lot of money.
yeah, for sure.
But
I,
it's not just about
I
the
want to go
money.
back to a year ago or so where
Mm.
you were, and we'll kind of wrap up with this, where you've done some speaking. Some of it's gone good. Some of it's not
Mm-hmm.
gone so well.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going, I want to do this, but now I'm questioning if I even have what it takes, if this is
Right.
worth it. Can I
Right.
even do this?
Right.
And you have those self doubts and limiting beliefs. And a lot of people may be in a similar spot.
Mm.
What would you say to the speaker? Like you mentioned, you stumbled across a podcast a year or so ago,
Mm.
and there are speakers who are listening right now who are in the same spot going like, dang, everything that she's describing, that sounds awesome. I would love that to be me. And that's just not my reality right
Mm.
now. And so what would you say to that speaker who may be in a similar spot?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is don't give up, because that's just the easy way to give up. That's
Mm-hmm.
anxiety messing with your head. Like you have got to get out of your head and just remember, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I'm doing this because I wrote a song for Sesame Street when I was 5. I was a backup singer on
Yeah.
Rolling. Like I want to be on the stage. Just keep reminding yourself why you're doing this. If your why is still making sense, don't give
Mm-hmm.
up. And then do what I did. First of all, I tried. Like I did my best to try to figure out. I knew there was a system. I just didn't know what it was. So I started asking friends who were speakers, but you can't, and they were great, but it's like they're not getting paid to help you start your speaker business. And I
Mm-hmm.
did look at other organizations and tested a couple of things out, and they just did not meet my learning style. And as I said, the same person that was coaching me at the beginning, a friend of mine who's an amazing speaker, said, "Okay, well, if that thing didn't work, try this Grant Baldwin Speaker Lab thing." And as soon as I heard the podcast, it connected, because you're talking to real people who've been on the journey, who have real stories, and everybody can see themselves in those people. So
Yeah.
if you have those messages on your heart, don't give up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do a commercial for you, Grant Baldwin, but go meet Grant Baldwin and join the Speaker Lab.
I'm not going to turn that down. I did not tell you to say
You
that.
did
To
not,
be
but
clear.
you can check my review I've done on every platform.
Yeah.
That you'll edit that part out.
Yeah.
But no, it saved my life. It's
Wow.
such good value. It's such amazing content. The people are insanely good. Like
Hmm.
everybody. Like I know them by their first names. My coaches, oh my God, they just every one of them helped me in a different way.
That's cool.
Um, yeah, just
Awesome. Marcy, this has been super inspiring. We appreciate you taking the time to share your story and journey. If people want to find out more about you and what you're up to, where can we find you online?
you can find me at marcygrossman.com.
Awesome.
MarcyGrossman.com.
Beautiful. Marcy,
Yeah.
thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Grant. It's been an honor.